The views and opinions expressed on the Timeless Voyager series podcast are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Timeless Voyager series podcast or the host, Bruce Stephen Holms.
Hello, everyone. Bruce Stephen Holms, Timeless Voyager. Strap on your cosmic seatbelts and be prepared for an adventurous ride through the world of aura colors. My next guest is Pamela Oslie. She is the author of 4 books, Life Colors, Love Colors, Infinite You, and Make Your Dreams Come True. Pam is an aura color reader. And she is the founder of auracolors.com. It's a site designed to help you create success, joy, and fulfillment in every area of your life. So without further ado, welcome to the program, Pam.
Hi, Bruce. Great to see you again.
It is. It's funny, too, because I was thinking to myself, it was over 30 years ago that we did our first program.
Wow, and we're only 27. I don't know how that happened.
No, I know. It's great. Yeah. Well, and in those days I was, 10, I think, or something. Okay. So let's start with just basics, because there are a lot of people out there that may not know. This might be really new to a lot of people, and those who this is not new to will get lots of confirmation on things that they probably were wondering. I looked at your site. Matter of fact, I've got your site up here. So I'm going to just look at it and ask you a few questions right from your site. What is an aura?
It's an energy field, or what it's called in physics is an electromagnetic field that radiates off of everything. Well, we're energy, Bruce. We're made of energy. And so the aura is an energy field that radiates off of everyone. To me, it looks like bands of colored lights. So that's basically what an aura is.
Quick and to the point. So we're going to look at some auras, so we'll find out what they look like. But let me ask you this. Why is it helpful for a person to know their aura color and perhaps the aura colors of people around them?
Well, let me explain this first. The way I see auras, and I've met a lot of people that see the same thing I do, Bruce, and I've met other people that see differently. So if you've got listeners that go, oh, I see auras too, but she's describing something different, it doesn't mean somebody's wrong, somebody's right. It means that we're having a different experience. And I like to use the example, we taste food differently because there are people that actually like Brussels sprouts, and I know they're not tasting what I'm tasting. So anyway.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm one of the people who looks at them and they look like little brains to me, but that's just a little thing, little big brains. I don't know what that's about.
I know. Anyway, so the way I see the aura is different bands of light that go out from the person. And in my experience, the 1 or 2 bands of color that are the closest to a person's body, those colors, those bands don't change. Those are what I call the life colors. Those are what show me who you are, what the theme is that you've chosen for this lifetime, what type of personality you are, what careers you're going to be fulfilled in, what you are, and how you are in relationship, and what you need and how you value or what you believe about relationships, how you handle money, how you perceive money, the way you are as potential health issues, how you maybe are with your children. Everything is revealed in those 2 bands. And in my experience, those 2 bands of colors don't usually change. The outer bands in the aura change all the time, depending on what's going on with you at the time. So, for example, I've seen people get really angry and red shows up in their outer bands, but that's not the same as a red life color. So the different color, so once somebody changes, those colors in the outer bands change. But my experience has shown that the life colors don't really change. And the way I see it, Bruce, is when we decided to come here, yes, we chose to come here. I know a lot of people are like, what was I thinking? Especially today. Anyway, the way I see it is that you chose to come here. You had a certain theme that you chose for your life, what type of person you wanted to be, and that is revealed in those two aura colors, just like, well, we've left breadcrumbs behind, just like, and that shows up in our astrology, numerology, iridology, palmistry. We've left a lot of clues behind. So those two main colors are really helpful for people to understand, because it helps you understand your life purpose. For example, a lot of times we get to this planet and forget why we've come here. A lot of people are lost, Bruce. They don't know what they're doing, what their life purpose is, what they're supposed to be doing, what's going to make them happy. So those two colors can help remind you why you came to the planet. They're not to limit people. They're to validate you. They're to give you permission to be who you are. And usually when people like take the aura color quiz that I've got on my website, the free quiz, watch the videos, it should validate what they've known about themselves their whole lives, what they've deep inside felt, or what they wanted to be as a child. I'm not talking about, oh, I want to be a fireman. It's like deep inside who you really believe you are. So one, it should validate what you've been sensing. Two, it should give you permission to be who you are. And then three, once we understand, because I see 14 different aura colors, and most people have two main life colors. Not everyone. I have seen just straight reds or straight violets, a single, not just a double band, but it helps us understand each other. It helps us give permission to for people to be who they are, instead of running around the planet going, why can't you be more like me? Why can't you think more like me? Now you can go, oh, you're a crystal. Oh, I get it. That's what's important to you. I see what your priorities are and why you're on the planet. Oh, you're a green. Okay, I understand. So we don't judge people anymore. Once we understand them, hopefully people don't judge. And it also helps with our understanding our compatibility, because quite a few of the aura colors are compatible with different colors naturally, and other colors are going to have a more challenging time getting along with each other because they're very different, like yellows and greens. And we'll get into describing what those mean. But the yellows and greens don't usually get along because they've got different personalities, different priorities. They see life differently. But once they understand each other, once they understand, oh, this is a yellow or this is a green, now they can bring the best out of each other and actually make that relationship work and be very positive for each other. So there's a lot of benefit in understanding your own aura colors and other people's aura colors. And it helps understand career direction too. So many people out there don't know especially yellows, they don't know what they want to be when they grow up. It doesn't matter. Even if you guys are like 50, 60, you still don't know what you want to do with your life because yellows are big kids. So it can help identify what life path, what direction, what career, where you're going to live. There's certain aura colors that are drawn to different places around the world and different climates. So understanding that is just really helpful.
Great answer. You covered almost everything I was going to ask you in the beginning. Let's start by looking at a red.
Okay.
So and I want to explain to people that this is done only with Photoshop. So this is not necessarily what you see, but this is hopefully close to what you see. And this is the inner band. I'm not showing the outer band at all.
Right.
There's no room for the outer band. And you know what? That's a great point. Let's just quickly talk about what is the size generally of a person's aura when they're not pulling it in.
Oh, cool. Good question, Bruce. So most people have about 6 feet of bands out from them. Most. You violets tend to have bigger auras because violets need to reach the masses. So they're more charismatic. They have bigger energy fields because you guys need to reach the masses. Tans, on the other hand, I typically see them keeping their auras, their energy fields very close to themselves because they tend to be more introverted or quieter. They don't want people to know who they are. So their aura can be smaller or tighter to their bodies. It's really funny, Bruce. I've gotten into elevators before. People can walk in with big auras and they go into the elevator and I watch their auras contract so that, they give everybody space. It's really cute. So, if people are happy and vibrant or reaching an audience, their aura tends to get bigger. If people are quiet in or introverted or, sheltered, whatever, their aura can condense more. But typically they're about 6 feet.
All right, so let's talk about red. That's the first one on the list here.
Okay.
And I thought when I first looked at this guy, I thought, yeah, he does look a little bit like a red.
Well, let me explain to people, first of all, that when I usually see bands, they can be, I mean, this is what you've created here with Photoshop is awesome because it does go all the way around a person, but that's a bigger band than I usually see around the primary color, but it's okay. People are getting the idea of it and everybody's different. So first, let me say that I've categorized the aura colors into 3 different families. So there are the physical colors, and those are the people that get what's real predominantly through their physical bodies, through touch, through physical activity. And those are reds, orange, magenta, and yellow. We're going to come back and do each one. I just want to show you the categories. Then there are the mental colors, and those are the people that predominantly process life through analyzing, through logic, through their minds, through the intellect. And those are 4 different types of tans and greens. And then there are the spiritual emotional colors, and those are the people that process life predominantly through their feelings or intuition or inner vision, more intuitive, more psychic, more emotional. And those are blue, violet, indigo, crystal, and lavender. So starting out with reds are, again, in the physical family, and they are very physical. Their whole life is about experiencing being a physical being in this lifetime. So they're usually very robust, very let's put it this way. I see a lot of them becoming football players or bodybuilders or truck drivers or construction workers or even butchers or even dancers. It's all about the physical expression: eat, drink, be merry, sex. Reds have a tendency to be very passionate with sex, and physical groundedness. And most of them are hard workers. But it's interesting, Bruce, we've actually had the language of aura colors in our vocabulary for a long time because reds can get red with anger. They have very short tempers. Reds.
Let me just interrupt for a second. For those of you who are watching, it's important to realize that I arbitrarily picked some males and some females. So I don't want you to think that only males are red. And I just wanted them to know that.
Right, right. Well, so here's some examples of reds. Marilyn Monroe, Lady Gaga, Madonna, Sean Penn, Russell Crowe. They're just very physical and strong-willed, and some of them are really sharp and mentally, really intelligent, and the rest of them are really the salt of the earth. So it's all about being physical and expressing physical, and very few reds actually believe in this stuff, believe in auras and energy fields. They're not really interested. It's more about having a physical experience in this lifetime. And I should explain, Bruce, that because I'm also a psychic and a medium and working with people now for 40 years. Basically, what I classify it as in power and out of power, meaning positive and negative. I don't like using the words positive and negative. So every aura color has the positive qualities, and I call them in power because it's what they're like when they're living their best potential, when they're living their best qualities. And then out of power is the negative side, the downside, when somebody's living the worst side of themselves, the negative qualities, the not their best. Okay, so reds in power are hard workers, they're go-getters. Usually they'll be the football captain and get everybody, yeah, come on, we can do this, just move that, push we can win. So they're very robust. When reds are out of power, quick tempers, they're very volatile, and usually they're physically violent. So when a red gets frustrated, they'll throw something or punch or get into a fight. So anyway, so that's basically a red. You probably have not that many reds listening to your show. Just because they're being ranchers and not all ranchers or truck drivers or construction workers are reds. A lot of them are yellows too. So we'll get to that. But does that give you a good idea of what a red is?
Yeah. You move to the orange. That's one of my favorites.
um, Oranges are the daredevils on the planet. They're again all about the physical body, but they need to put their lives on the line to feel alive. They need the adrenaline rush. So I see them being race car drivers, firefighters, police officers, skydivers, extreme sports. They just love the adrenaline. Now, they're not reckless. Most oranges, they calculate everything. So I see a lot being like stunt people, right? They calculate the risks. They figure it all out, and then they take away all the safety nets so that they can really feel alive. Where the rest of us are like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to have pain. Pain doesn't seem to stop them. They're not afraid of it. So their oranges are Evel Knievel's an orange. Jackie Chan has a lot of orange. Shaun White has a lot of orange. I don't see a lot of famous oranges to use as examples, but a lot of people in Hollywood that are stunt drivers are oranges, but you won't know who they are because you don't see them. They're being a stunt person. So oranges in power are intelligent. They calculate. They're risk takers. They relish doing physical activities, but the more dangerous, the better. When oranges are out of power, they're loners. They tend to keep to themselves because most people, it'd be really challenging to be in a relationship with an orange if you don't know if they're going to come back that day, because they're out skydiving or climbing cliffs, and you don't know, or, again, a lot of them, I've seen them policemen, firemen, or that adrenaline rush and the danger to go after it. So I haven't seen that many oranges on the planet, Bruce, but at the same time, I don't usually hang out where oranges hang out. I'm not a cliff hiker or whatever, mountain climber. I did go skydiving. I don't remember seeing any oranges on the plane when I went, but it's been years, so I don't remember now.
Probably you felt comfortable not seeing any.
Yeah. Well, actually, the tricky part is I should explain to people when I went skydiving, the guys on the plane, the people I went with, they told them that I was a psychic and I could see auras. And what I do know is that if somebody's about to die, their aura fades out, or it's not there anymore.
But you didn't tell them that, I hope, right?
No, it was funny because they found out about it. I didn't tell them. My friends did.
No, I'm saying while we're on the plane, they don't want to, am I fading it out?
No, that's what they did.
Are.
They went, is it okay if I jump? Do I have an aura? Can I jump? It was really funny. It's like, yeah, you got an aura.
Right.
It's really interesting. Anyway, so those are oranges. They're the daredevils of the planet. And actually in relationship, they do best with somebody who's going to be an orange with them. Like oranges and oranges can get along great. That sounds so funny. It's not apples and oranges. It's two oranges together because they can go on their exploits together. They can go do dangerous things. There's certain aura colors, like you'll see later, the personalities, like a blue would have a real hard time being with an orange. Right. Blues are caretakers and nurturers and mothers and don't get hurt.
You'd be crying all the time.
That's it. And oranges are very independent and they need their independence. So if they're going to be in a relationship, they want to be with somebody who understands that, who will go be independent with them and not strangle them or not worry about them all the time, because that's just going to stress them out. So anyway, you get the idea of what an orange is like, right?
Right.
I mean, just you can imagine the health challenges that an orange has is staying alive long enough to have old age problems. So that's an orange.
All right. So we're moving to magenta here.
Yeah. This is another unusual aura color. Magentas are what we're going to call the outrageous, loners, bizarre, outside the box, shocking. They love to shock people. It's still all about being physical in the body, but they like to take the physical and twist it and turn it and make it very bizarre. So Auntie Mame portrayed a magenta. Kramer on Seinfeld portrayed a magenta. They're just kind of outrageous, shocking. I really believe it was a magenta that started the purple mohawks and the body piercings and the outrageous things. And oh my gosh, who's that? Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol is very magenta. So again, physical reality, but bizarre, outrageous. They don't like to stick with norms. Now, a lot of the people that are listening to you right now probably go, well, I'm like that. I like to, I'm outrageous. I go, yeah, but you might be a yellow-violet combination, because magentas, typically I find magentas, they're so bizarre and outrageous that it's hard for some people to be friends with them because they get embarrassed by their behavior. And magentas, a lot of times they don't keep normal hours, like they'll eat dinner at 3 a.m. or something. So I usually see magentas living in big cities like San Francisco, New York, because they can have that type of lifestyle and not be ostracized. They get accepted more. They don't do well in small town America because they're too outrageous. So again, they're very creative. I think a phrase for a magenta would be going to the beat of a different drummer, right? But they like it. They like shocking people and being bizarre and very creative. They can come up with very outrageous, bizarre ideas that no one's ever thought of before. So I see most of them being like artists or tattoo artists or musicians, especially jazz musicians, oddly enough. And I've seen him, well, actually, Marilyn Manson, is that his name? He's got a lot of magenta. So again, the kind of the shocking behavior. But they do tend to be loners, so it's challenging to be in a relationship with a magenta. It's really cute. I see magentas. They love the creative stuff of doing a wedding and getting married, but they typically don't stay married because they don't like being confined, and most people can't keep up with their lifestyle or don't mesh with their lifestyle. Yellows can usually get along with magentas because they're more easygoing or fun, or they don't mind people being strange.
So should we use that as a way into yellow?
Yeah. And by the way, I want people to know there are no good or bad aura colors. They're just a different personality type, and we need different personality types here. We don't want just everybody to be the same. That would be like playing a song on a piano and only hitting one note all the time. We like all the notes and the sharps and the flats and the regular keys. It just makes life more interesting. So people have asked me, but there are no good or bad colors. It's just a different experience. So when magentas are in power, they're creative. They can get along with people, but through their own creative style. When magentas are out of power, they're so strange that they tend to be alone and they isolate themselves, and they won't let people in. And a lot of times they can't make money because they just don't know how to fit in with society enough to be able to manifest something to make money. Okay. Now we're going to go to yellows. And by the way, I don't see that many magentas, but again, they keep different hours than I do, and they live in a big city and I don't usually. Now, yellows, I do see a lot of. Yellows are...
Especially Santa Barbara, right?
Especially, well, Santa Barbara is very yellow. It's a yellow town. So you've probably got a lot of yellows listening right now. Yellows are at core. They are fun-loving, sense of humor, playful. They want freedom. Yellows are the big kids at heart. They love to laugh. They love to get other people to laugh. Yellows are here to bring joy to the planet, and or they're natural healers. So yellows, if they had their way, wouldn't be working at all. Now remember, if you've got another color like you do, Bruce, like a violet, violets have to do projects. Otherwise they get bored. Yellows in power are full of life and energy and enthusiasm and optimism. They're the global cheerleaders. They're the cheerleaders on the planet. But if they had their way, they wouldn't be working at all. So when I do see yellows working, I see them either in the creative arts, especially drummers. I've seen so many yellows be drummers. So they do music or performing or art, writing, anything creative. Especially yellows like to work with their hands. Remember, they're still in the physical world and this physical category. But they're very physical. So I see yellows either getting into the creative fields or the healing fields. They're natural massage therapists and acupuncturists and veterinarians and doctors. Yellows are very intuitive. They're very kinesthetic. So if a yellow is a massage therapist, they tend to go right to the place where the person's having a problem. They're very intuitive, kinesthetic with their hands. Or yellows get into the physical arts, like yoga instructors or construction or gardening, landscaping, or sports. Yellows are common. They're usually athletes. So I see yellows. Yellows have to, by the way, yellows in power are full of life, energy, joy, but they have to move. And one of the biggest things for yellows is they need nature. They do the best when they're connecting with nature. So yellows, they have a hard time sitting still. They're very fidgety. They move around a lot. They have a hard time sitting still unless there's movement, like they're watching a movie that's got them engrossed, or they're in a car driving someplace. As long as there's movement, or they're out in nature and there's a stream or the ocean, then they can calm down. But yellows are very animated. Matter of fact, Bruce, a lot of yellow children they get diagnosed as ADHD. A lot. Number one thing, because they're animated. They have a hard time sitting still. Yellows need variety. They want some of this and some of this and some of this. So even if they work somewhere, they have to have variety. They get so bored sitting behind a desk. They can't sit still long enough to do that. So yellows in power are optimistic, fun, free, and they're usually the healthiest people on the planet. They're also the perennial Peter Pans. Yellows ultimately don't really age. They never look their age unless they're unhappy. Then they start aging. And so when yellows are out of power, no, this is where we get a problem. Yellows out of power, like I said, they don't want to work. So they get accused of being lazy, irresponsible, flaky. They tend to procrastinate. They can put things off to the last minute if they get to it at all. So a lot of people get mad at yellows because they won't get in the game and make money, because yellows don't care that much about money. They want fun, freedom, friends. Yellows get along great with dogs. Yellows love dogs. I always see yellows with dogs. And if I'm walking on the beach here in Santa Barbara, I see a dog just hightailing it right towards a yellow. They're like best friends. So when yellows are out of power, also, the downside of yellows, they are the most addictive personalities on the planet. Okay, so when yellows are not happy, yellows don't like conflict, so they'll avoid it. Now remember, Bruce, you got Violet, and Violet's the opposite of this. Okay,
you're giving me away to everybody.
Somebody's got to be the guinea pig. Anyway, when yellows are out of power, they don't like conflict, so they tend to run away. So they just won't answer the phone, or they'll avoid, or they'll ghost somebody, or whatever. They don't like conflict. So if yellows are not happy, they get into addictions like either drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, caffeine, chocolate or sweets, overeating, gaming, sex. They can get very addicted to things that
all of them.
Yeah, exactly. But yellows like to play. When they're young, especially, yellows like to party. Okay, it's like, come on, life for a yellow. Their one attitude is life is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy life while you're here. That's why they want to bring joy and happiness. A lot of them are comedians. Matter of fact, almost every comedian I've ever seen has had yellow in their aura. So they like to make people laugh, usually little entertainers. Anyway, when a yellow's out of power and they're doing any of these addictions, it's avoidance. It's like there's something not making them happy. They might start out just doing it for fun, partying. But as they get older, whatever, if they're still doing the addictions, there's something that they're afraid of in their life, something they're avoiding, something that's not making them happy. And yellows can get insecure. They don't always believe in themselves. Okay, especially with you violets with this grand vision, and then a yellow's like, maybe I'm not good enough to do that, or wait, is that going to be a lot of hard work? And yellows don't procrastinate.
Hard work.
Yellows don't want to work hard. They're fine if they're out there gardening or doing construction, whatever. Yellows are fun if they're doing sports. Then they're fine working, but no, it needs to be fun for yellow. So anytime you yellows are out of power with all the aura colors, and I'm spending more time on yellows because you have more yellows watching this right now. Yellows are curious. They're a little more open-minded, and they're pleasers and very sensitive, but yellows are also very stubborn. They do not like being told what to do. So if you want a yellow to do something like clean up their room, if you got a yellow child or whatever, no, you got to give them choices and then follow through with the results or the consequences of those choices. But if you tell a yellow what to do, they'll want to do the opposite just to prove you can't control them. Even though they want to make you happy and they're pleasers and they're sensitive, they still don't like being told what to do. So when yellows are out of power and doing addictions or procrastinating or sleeping a lot or getting sick all the time, something's not making them happy. So for yellows to get back into power, these are the things that yellows need. Number one is exercise. Yellows have to move their bodies. They got to do something. And the best form of healing for a yellow is connecting with nature, getting out in nature, hiking, going for walks, swimming, being on the surfboard. A lot of yellow surfers out there. Something where they connect with nature. That's where yellows meditate. That's where they can heal themselves. That's where they feel connected. So exercise, being in nature, staying away from the negative addictions. And usually the only way a yellow will stay away from addiction, a negative one, is if they're getting into a positive addiction like exercising, okay, being in nature, or doing something creative. That can also help them not get into the negative addictions. So those are the main things that yellows need to do. Oh, and then the other thing, yellows, it's important for yellows is to keep a sense of humor. If a yellow can keep a sense of humor, they can survive anything. They can get out of anything. So if a violet wants to do something powerful and intense, to make a big difference, and the yellow's afraid of it, if they keep a sense of humor about it and tap into their creativity, they'll usually align with the other side of themselves then. So, and by the way, yellows are usually, they live the longest. Betty White was a blue yellow, and George Burns was a yellow green, and Bob Hope was a yellow green. There's a lot of yellows that live over 100. They live the longest as long as they're happy. As long as they're happy, yellows have to be happy. If they're not happy, then the number one wake up, the way you get a yellow to wake up is through their health. As soon as it starts hitting their health, then yellows pay attention. Otherwise, they avoid. They don't want to look at it. And a yellow's weak spots are usually their backs. Can't believe I'm saying this since I injured my legs and knees and feet. It's structural, but it's usually the back, the legs, the knees, the feet. Which I just injured my knee and my feet. So I'm like, uh-oh. I think I already know I'm giving myself a wake-up call and nudge. So that's when you pay attention. Yellows, when they get injured or they have health issues, that's when you've got their attention. Otherwise, they're the little energizer bunnies. Otherwise, they'll just keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going until it hits their health. And then there's usually two life colors. So for example, you're yellow and violet. Those are your two life colors. The outer bands change all the time. So there's lots of bands out here. So what I've seen, for example, even if people aren't yellows, I've seen a lot of people out on vacation and they're having fun. They're being playful. Yellow starts showing up in their outer bands. Okay. So yeah, the two life colors in my experience of doing this for 40 years don't change. Now I would never tell somebody they couldn't change them, but okay. It's showing your life purpose. It's revealing why you came to the planet, what you're here to do, and what's going to make you happy. So I think in the 40 years I've done this, I've only seen like 3 or 4 people change their life colors. And it's only because they completed what they completed their original colors. And then they moved on to adding bigger colors or other colors because they were ready for their next experience. Let me say this to people, because some people, when they find out they're like a blue yellow, they'll go, well, am I a blue with yellow or am I yellow with blue? That doesn't matter because sometimes you'll be more of your blue and sometimes you'll be more of your yellow. So it doesn't matter which one's closest to your body, really. It just matters which you're spending your time in. And it should go back and forth. It should be both. Matter of fact, when people have 2 life colors, both of those colors need to be happy and fulfilled. Both of them. If you disregard one of your aura colors, you're always going to feel like something's missing or something's wrong or you're not fulfilled because you're not feeding and acknowledging and living the purpose of both those colors. Okay. So those are yellows. And again, I spent more time because you've got more yellows listening. And you yellows that don't really want to work, find a creative outlet or find a healing outlet. And yellows are not that great with money. They get money and it disintegrates in their hands. They're like, because yellows, they're so spontaneous. They're so in the moment and they really don't care about money. They just want to be happy and they want everyone else to be happy. So it just kind of goes away, which if you've got another color that doesn't like that, then you're going to have some inner conflict. So there are ways for yellows to value money. Matter of fact, this is interesting to me, Bruce, anyway. Yellows can manifest anything they can get the physical feeling of. So I tell yellows, if you're struggling for money. Get what it feels like, if you know what it feels like to have like a whole bunch of money in your hands. It's got to be tangible. Or if you want a new car, go sit in a new car, get it, really feel it, so it becomes more real for you. Usually yellows don't care about that stuff. Yellows can a lot of times be happy, living on a beach shack, or camping out all the time. They don't care about that stuff. So you understand, if somebody that you're married to or in relationship with values things that you don't value, there can be some issues there. So there's a way to balance all this out. So, I mean, I know a ton of stuff about each one of these aura colors. I'm giving you a small version of everything I know. So, people can go to the website, they can go to the books, my books, because I have 2 books. That one's Life Colors that talks about all this. And then there's Love Colors that focuses on relationship and compatibility. So anyway, you ready to move on now? There we go. Logical tan. Okay. So as you see from the picture, it's really a tan color in their aura. And tans are in the mental family. They are the most logical, analytical, practical, detail-oriented. I see a lot of them becoming engineers, bookkeepers, computer programmers. They like logic and they like dealing with the details. And so we so need tans, because the rest of us don't usually have the patience to deal with the details. Tans, I rarely have a tan see me as a psychic client, only because tans are like, wait, that's a rip, there's no scientific evidence for that. There's no facts and logic for that. That's a ripoff. But when I do see tans, there's usually a tan yellow or a tan blue or a tan violet. It's a combination. The other color is more curious. But tans, you'll know you've got a tan on your hands. They're very down to earth, very practical, very logical, and they tend to be very, I'm going to use the word practical with their money. We can also use the word conservative with their money. They're usually employees, unless they have another color, because tans want security, stability, practicality. They want the benefits, the health benefits, the retirement benefits. They're very practical with their lives, and they can work for the same company their entire work life. Where if you're a tan yellow, that can be a conflict, because yellows want fun and freedom and variety. And tans want down-to-earth logic, practicality. So you'll know you have, I'm talking faster because you've got violet in your aura, Bruce, and violets are fast thinkers. Tan says usually.
Why am I having? I'm just being quiet and listening.
No, I'm just saying that violets, you'll see when we get to violets how they process life. And it's the opposite of a tan. Tans are very logical and sequential. And they go, this is how they process, and this is how they talk. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and if you try to rush them, because some of the other colors like greens and violets, it's like, come on, get to the punchline. I get it. You can't rush a tan, because they feel like if they don't tell you everything, it didn't build a foundation and you won't understand all the facts. Where other colors are like, well, you'll see like a blue will go, I don't care about the logic. I want to hear how you felt. How did you feel about that? How did that make you feel? And tans are like, they don't talk about their feelings. If you can get a tan to talk about their feelings, they'll go, well, I think I feel. Okay, well, I think I feel this way. So now, again, we need tans because we need people with the patience to take care of the details. And again, they're usually very long-term loyal employees. Tans in power will get the job done. They calm everyone down. If there's a crisis, tans are like, okay, calm down, everyone. We'll just take care of this. Take the steps. Don't rush. Let's go. Matter of fact, if you try to rush a tan, they'll get really mad at you. It's like, don't jump to 10. I haven't told you about 4, 5, and 6 yet. So, and tans can be very almost out of power. Tans can be a little too conservative with their money. They're not risk takers. So if you're married to a tan, if you want a new sofa or you want a new dining room set, a tan will go, what's wrong with the one? Let's buy one that's going to last us for 30 years. And usually a violet or green will go, I don't care about 30 years. I want something that's beautiful now. I want it to look pretty now. And tans are like, well, that's not practical. We need something that's going to last for a real long time. Otherwise, it's a waste of money, and I'm not going to waste my money on that.
Wow.
Yeah. Tans can get very stuck.
That guy looks like the person we're talking about.
Definitely, this guy does have tan. You did pick a tan photo, so that's great. So tans, when they're out of power, get very stuck and pedantic and really stuck in their ways. They don't like change. They do not like change. So if they lose a job and they have to go get another job, they want to know, or we're moving someplace. What's it going to look like? What's my pay? Where are we going to live? What are the benefits? I mean, they want all the facts and the logic and the details before they take a risk. Because if you look at it, tans will go 1 to 10, but steps 1, 2, 3, and their whole lives they pretty much go 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10. They like their systems. They don't want change because look at it. 11, 12, it's like, wait, 11, 12, that doesn't make any sense. It should be 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3. Who came up with the word 11? And I mean that symbolically, right? So they don't even like it if you change the furniture around. It's like my chair was perfectly right there because I could see the TV. What's wrong with you? Why do you need change? So, but again, we need tans. They're more grounded and they work on technology. I don't think tans don't usually create technology. They usually help bring it to fruition. It's usually the violets and the greens that come up with the ideas. We'll get to that. And tans are the ones that help.
This is the guy you want to do your taxes, right?
Yes. Very detail-oriented, very practical, very grounded, very logical. And again, there's no good or bad colors. We need all of these because, like I said, violets don't usually want to deal with the details, and neither do greens. So they've got the patience. So anyway, tans, when they get stuck in their ways and then get very stubborn about it, can be challenging if you want growth in your relationship. So what tans need to do is to learn how to be a little more open-minded. And all right, if you don't think there's logic behind this or scientific facts behind this, go research. You sure you've researched everything? You sure you know that there's no data behind all that? So tans need to learn how to get outside the box a little bit because they prefer the structure of the box. Okay. Now, all 4 tans are very similar because we're going to go on to different tans right now. Hopefully the sensitive tan you have next.
I have everything when you want it.
Okay. There you go. Sensitive tans are like tans. I mean, they're still logic, analytical, but they've got a tan band around them, and then they've got a soft blue, like what you've got in this picture around them. And they're a combination of logic and emotional feeling, intuition. So the best example for, I don't know how old your listeners are, but Murder, She Wrote, Jessica, whatever, she played a sensitive tan. They're logical but intuitive at the same time. So she solved a lot of the mysteries by using logic and facts and following the data, but there was also intuition in there. So sensitive tans they're usually more introverted, they're quiet, they're loving, they're supportive, they're logic and intuition and kindness and love at the same time. I've seen them be everything from daycare workers and teachers to secretaries, personal assistants. Again, they take care of the details and they're calmer when they take care of the details and more nurturing. I've actually even seen them be a judge because they can listen to the facts and the logic, and they can still be empathetic, compassionate, intuitive about what's going on. So again, all the tans are very similar, just a little different. So this is a tan with the soft powder blue. So when we get to the blues, you'll see how a sensitive tan is kind of a combination of a tan and a blue. Okay.
Any particular people that you can mention? Famous people that you?
No, usually sensitive tans are really quiet and low key. So I don't know of any other than Jessica, in Murder, She Wrote, she portrayed a sensitive tan. I don't know other characters. I don't watch enough TV to know what other characters are out there. I would have to see, I have friends that are a combination sensitive tan and violet, but I haven't seen enough performers to know which ones have that combination. But you get the gist of it, right? Logical, down to earth, calm. They're very good. They're very loyal partners. Very
Did you,
low
did you,
employees.
yeah, I'm sorry. Did you mention whether, what in power and out of power?
Yeah, in power, they're very nurturing and calm and soothing and patient. They make really great like counselors, like school counselors, because they can keep everyone calm and still listen. Because blues are natural counselors and teachers, so they calm everyone down and they get it done, and they're very reliable and responsible and what's the word I want? Loyal. Okay, when sensitive tans are out of power. Again, like all tans, they can get stuck in their ways, but blues are just a touch more, that blue part is a touch more emotional, and they can get into victimhood, poor me, I feel trapped, I don't know how to get out of it. And they can also, which is a typical blue thing to do, they can pick wrong partners because blues tend to be rescuers and nurturers. And so a sensitive tan, out of power, stuck, they can get into victimhood, they can get into martyrdom, they can get into staying in relationships like a typical blue way longer than they should because they want the security and the stability. And they value family, they value home, they value same. So they could be in a relationship that's not healthy for them, and yet they're afraid to get out. So what sensitive tans need to do is trust their value, their self-value, their intuition, and get out of stuck places. So, and they do that by listening more to their intuition, more to their emotional center, rather than it's all just logic. Like, wait, how am I going to support myself? How am I going to pay my bills if I'm not with this person anymore? It can't just be about facts. It's got to be about trusting their intuition. Okay.
Okay. Are we on to the environmental tan?
Now, this is a rare color. I don't see this many. Well, again, I'm not where environmental tans live, though, usually. Environmental tans, again, tan, but as it says in the name, that's much more about the environment, measuring, calculating. I see some of them being like forest rangers. I've got a friend who's an environmental tan who he's a consultant for the military, and he works on submarines. So they do a lot of, they seem to be able to be able to tell what is going to fit in a box, or the distance, the space. They're very they're very logical, but there's a physical component to it. Oddly enough, Clint Eastwood is an environmental tan and a violet. So environmental tans, a lot of them are very fascinated by gadgets and technology, but like airplanes, because there's a spatial thing to it. There's space and distance and something to do with the earth. So I see them doing things like, Clint Eastwood is a rarity to be an environmental tan and a violet, because they're really opposites. But environmental tans are more about the physical, spatial body, but very logical, distance, measuring, calculating. I do see a lot of them working with the environment. I've seen some of them being tree surgeons, or to help with the environment, sustain it, but in a scientific way, not just in a let's save the environment way. It's more scientific. We can graft trees. We can grow this type of stuff. We can help other countries become sustainable and help them grow things. So again, it's a combination of logic and mental and physical earth type of person. Does that make sense? But they are definitely fascinated more by like airplane, looking at the gadgets, for the airplanes, or looking at the gadgets in a spaceship, or, something that like submarines. How does this work? It's still more physical. Okay. So the abstract tan, this one's unusual. So environmental tans, by the way, out of power, in power, you can kind of get the system that they can get stuck in their ways and very pedantic about, no, this is the way that we've always done it. We're not going to change. This is the way it has to be. There's logic behind it. And then they can get stuck too. So being more open-minded, doing things. And for an environmental tan, it's helpful for them to be out in nature too, so that they can connect more and maybe be more open-minded. Now, an abstract tan is a very unusual. I have not seen that many of them, but a lot of people who are yellow violets are going to think they're an abstract tan, but they're not. So abstract tans, again, details, logic, whatever, but they process more scattered. They don't do it in a sequential order like the rest of the tans do. It's more holographic almost. So, and they do good at things like city planning, where they can look at the whole map and figure out how to put all the details together, but they can see it all at once. But an abstract tan won't go step 1, step 2, step 3. They'll go 1, 7, 2, 9, 3. They jump around just because that's how they get very scattered. So in power, they're very good at figuring out all the details in things like city planning or a map or, or party planning, but it's as long as it all gets done, but they might not do it in an order. So for example, I use this example a lot. An abstract tan will go, they're going to host a party. So they'll take a shower, then they'll clean the house, then they'll bake the cake, then they'll start decorating the place. Like, wait, whoa. Why didn't you do it a different order? Like let's clean the house first, and then let's get the cake going, and then let's decorate, and then let's take a shower last. They go, what are you talking about? Everything got done. I didn't need to do it in that order. So it all gets done. All the details get handled, but in a very scattered way. Now, they're usually very friendly, much more outgoing. This is one of the more outgoing of the tans. They're friendly. They're curious. They're curious about other cultures, other people. They're more animated. They're more vibrant. But still, it's the details and the logic and the security of a paycheck. They like the security of a paycheck. So out of power, these people can irritate people with their scatteredness and their freneticism because they're all over the place when they're out of power. So they have to learn how to stay calm and get it done and maybe calm down the energy a little bit more and not be irritating people with all that frenetic energy. They're kind of like detail-oriented hummingbirds. So they're, again, they're useful, they're helpful. They will take care of the details, even if it's in their own way. So does that help you with the tans? Greens, everybody knows some greens. Greens are, again, in the mental family, so it's all about processing from the intellect. Greens are the type A personalities. They are the workaholic, business-oriented CEOs, where a tan will go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Tans go 1, 2, I got it, 10, let's go. Come on. In power, they are movers and shakers. They're intelligent. They get things done. They can create businesses and provide jobs for a lot of people. Greens like to accomplish, and they like money, and they like business. I mean, I have seen a few of them combo be like therapists, because they can figure it out, they can analyze it, they can see people's patterns. But more often than not, I see greens in business and sales. So I see them being CEOs, corporate managers, salespeople, car sales, jewelry sales, real estate agents. A lot of real estate agents are greens. Business, acuity, sharp, quick. They're very good at figuring out the patterns of something. They're very good at figuring out plans. So what a green usually does is come up with a goal, and it's got to involve money. Greens like making money. They like nice clothes, nice cars, nice homes, nice furniture. They like quality. So greens in power can accomplish anything they put their minds to. And usually I see greens either getting business degrees, or they get masters, or they get PhDs. They really value education and the intellect. Or the majority of greens will be entrepreneurs. So a lot of greens don't finish school because they just want to get on with their businesses. They want to get on with their making money. So a lot of them will learn on the job, in the corporate, in the office, right? Now, when greens are in power, they're movers and shakers. They create jobs for people. They make money. They get things done. And if I ever wanted something done, I would give it to a green, because they got it done, and they got it done fast. Mm-hmm. Now, it's greens out of power that are very challenging to be around. Greens out of power, and I'm going to be very blunt here, okay? Greens, they'll
should be blunt. They're very blunt themselves.
They are. They are. Greens, you will never win an argument with greens. Greens don't care who they step on, whose feelings they hurt. They're very blunt and abrupt. And greens out of power are controlling, bossy, judgmental, critical, impatient, and they don't care who they step on as long as they're making money. Okay. They're the ones that step on people as they go up the corporate ladder. They're the ones that can lie, cheat, steal, whatever, just to make money. And again, they will argue. You can give an idea to a green and they'll argue and say how stupid it is and it's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. And then a few weeks later, they'll come back and now they've come up with the idea and it's their idea. So then it's brilliant, right? So greens out of power are very challenging to be with. They blame other people. They don't own responsibility for their own stuff. They're very critical. You can go to a dinner with a green, and if they don't like the food, they will be very abrupt to the waiter. Take this as mush. I'm not paying for this, blah, blah, blah. And if you're a blue out with a green, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry he's yelling at you. Oh my gosh. It's like, don't treat him like that. But greens are like, hey, I paid for this. It's their job. They can be out of power. They can be very cold. Now I'm giving you the downside of all these colors. None of the colors are fun to be around when they're out of power. They're all amazing when they're in power. They all have their value and their benefit.
That's a good point to make too, because that's important for people that are, if they don't necessarily hear that right away, but to hear you say it again is good.
Yeah, well, and maybe some people can identify some of the famous people out there that have green in their auras. I'm going to stay away from politics right now.
I hear the whole thing.
Well, I think
No, just leave it alone.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to go there.
Because politics ages the show. I prefer not be in it.
Yeah. So greens out of power, and again, they blame everyone else. They'll criticize, they'll be judgmental. They can be very cruel, but they're sharp tongued when they're out of power. When they're in power, they can solve business things very well. They are some of the wealthiest people on the planet are greens. So these are green yellows. David Letterman is green yellow. Barbara Walters was very green with violet. Warren Buffett is green with yellow. Oh my gosh, why am I spacing on his name? Microsoft. Bill Gates is green with some violet. Zuckerberg green, very green. Very green. I think he might have a little bit of yellow in there. I'm not sure. But you see all these corporate business, but also Bertie Madoff is a green. The
other side. Okay.
Pardon?
I said the other side.
Yeah. Sunshine, they can accomplish things. And what's his face? SpaceX.
Elon Musk,
very green. A lot of green in that aura too. Okay. So you see how they can make a lot of money, create very successful businesses. What greens need to do though, is if they're out of power, and by the way, this is an odd thing to say, but greens, their health issues, greens they're first to get tight neck and shoulders. They're the first ones to get heart attacks and ulcers because of type A personality. They stress out. So greens need to really learn how to relax. And when a green's out of power, greens don't even take vacations well. They're usually working on vacation. But what greens need to do if they're unhappy, frustrated, find themselves blaming other people, being critical, being mean to people, is the way to get out of that and get back into power is to figure out what they want. What's your goal? What's your desire? What is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Figure that out. Make a plan. Write a list, because greens are list makers. They go down, write a list, check off everything they've done on a list. Now, watch this. If you have green and yellow in your aura, greens need lists. They love lists. They live for lists. Yellows don't like lists. So a yellow will write a list and then they can't remember where they put it, or they'll only get partway through it, right? So you can imagine what it's like if you have that combo. So again, David Letterman is a green yellow. So, and you see the heart attacks. Okay. Same with Barbara Walters, I think, had a heart attack. So anyway, that's one of their issues. So learning how to breathe, learning how to own responsibility, learning how to come up with what they want to do, come up with the plan, because they're good planners, write the list and take action. Once a green does that, they're way better. That's what gets them back into power. So you don't tell a green, really go take a vacation, because that's not their way of solving things. Greens, you say, you know what? Go be alone, figure out what you want, come up with a plan, write a list, and then start taking action. And then they feel better. They're like, wow, okay. Then they don't stress as much. Okay. And if you're in a relationship with a green, I guarantee you will never, ever win an argument with a green. Okay. And some people, by the way, Bruce, I've seen this a lot. Some people were not born green, but they were raised with people thinking that they were supposed to be a green. So they've added green in their outer bands, and now they're acting like a green, or they think they're supposed to be a green, and that they'll never feel totally happy.
So it creates conflict.
It does. It does, because they're not living their true colors. Quoting Cyndi Lauper, they're not living their true colors. They're living what they think they should. And that's the thing about greens. The words that you want to know you got a green on your hands, first of all, they'll want to finish their sentences for you. You get very impatient. It's about money. But also they use these words: should, ought to, have to, need to. You need to do this. You should go do this. You should, they should. They use the word try a lot. I didn't say I'd do it. I just said I'd try. I'm going to try and do that. And they use the words hard work and struggle. Those are very common words for greens, and those are out of power words. We want to use the words that are in power, meaning not I should do this, I have to do this, I need to do this. It's I'm choosing to do it, or I am doing it. Those are the power words, not the struggle words. And instead of saying try, either say I'm focusing on it or I am doing it. Again, power words, not struggle words. Try is a fear of failure word. I just said I'd try to do it. I didn't say I'd do it. Your mind doesn't know what to do with the word try. This is lift up your hand. This is don't lift up your hand. Your mind knows what to do with that. You say try and it goes, I didn't say do it. He said try. Okay. It's just a struggle word. And it's a fear of failure word. And then hard work and struggle. Greens go, I worked hard for that. Yeah, I really struggled. I worked hard for all that. It's like, geez, again, struggle words, because it makes them feel like a sense of pride. I did it. Look how hard I worked to get there. It's like, well, if you don't want to work that hard, it's like, it's easy. It just flows. Everything works for me. Right. So those are greens. And now we're going to go to blue. Very good. Blues are the nurturers, the loves. Their priority is all about love and spirituality. Number one for blues. Every blue saw or spoke to God or some form of spirituality when they were little, so they always know that. Blues are teachers, counselors, nurses. They're here to be in service and to experience love. Their biggest priorities are spirituality and being and having love in their lives. So especially and by the way, well, this is an odd thing, and I haven't seen everybody on the planet, but my experience so far, anytime I've seen someone with a blue life color, they've either been female or occasionally I've seen gay men that have blue in their aura. If some male thinks they're a blue and they're not gay, there's a good chance that's in the outer band, and they're probably a yellow or a yellow-violet combo, because those colors can feel a lot like blues. So blues are nurturers. They're caretakers. They, ever since they were little, they fantasize of, blues have the Cinderella complex. Okay. Prince Charming, I want to be married. I want to have a family. I want to have a home. Maybe not the kids always, especially if it's a blue yellow, because yellows like their freedom and blues like love and relationship. Blues are very loyal, very monogamous, and blues are really emotional. Blues can cry at the drop of a hat. Blues can cry when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're angry, when they're frustrated, or really for no reason at all. It's really interesting, Bruce, if you're ever in a room with a bunch of people and somebody in the room starts to cry, all the blues will cry with them. It just sets off all the blues. They start crying. Blues will cry at commercials. So, but they come from the heart. Blues just come from the heart. Also, and so their intuition, their love, their compassion makes them valuable. It's like it's who they are. Also, blues are the most intuitive and psychic of all the aura colors. The three most psychic and intuitive are blues, violets, and indigos. So blues just know things. They don't know why they know it. They just sense it. They feel it. And blues, if you go into a blues home, they'll go, can I get you anything? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Can I get you anything? I mean, they'll just start caretaking you right off the bat. So when blues are in power, they're loving, they're forgiving. They will basically be friends with people that no one else wants to be friends with. They collect stray dog people. I mean, it's like, oh, that poor, somebody's got to love them, and they take care of everybody. So when blues are in power, they trust their intuition. They're kind. They're loving. They're allowing. They're supportive. They're very loyal. When blues get in relationships, Bruce, oh my gosh, again, it's a blue thing. Blues will rescue wounded souls a lot. So a lot of times they'll marry somebody who's got a fear of commitment, or they'll marry somebody who's got addiction problems, or they'll marry somebody abusive, because blues have this intuitive feeling like, if I just love them enough, I'll be able to heal them. But blues can also be, on the downside of blues, they can be self-deprecating. They can be insecure. They don't value themselves. Blues have a real hard time saying no. They feel like if they say no to somebody, that's like that person won't feel loved, and then that they won't be loved back. Blues value love above anything else. So blues will do anything to give love and to be loved. So out of power, they can become doormats. People can abuse them. They can take advantage of them. And blues will just forgive people and put up with it and be doormats. But the other downside of blues, because they're not valuing themselves. They just, if you try to, blues are very good givers. They're not very good receivers. So even if you try to give a blue a compliment, they don't always take, on the downside, they don't always take compliments. So with blues, blues can also get into victimhood, martyrdom, and self-pity, because blues are so intuitive. They know when other people need something, they'll go, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? Matter of fact, if you call up in the middle of the night and call a blue, and you go, well, I'm so sorry. They'll go, it's okay. It's okay. Talk to me. What's wrong? Do you need money? Do you need me to come pick you up? They'll just go out of their way to help people. Which again, some of the other colors like violets will go, no. We're not doing this. You call me during hours and we'll talk, whatever. Or anyway, we'll get to violets in a minute. But blues are long suffering and giving. So what blues need to do when they get into that martyr, it's like, well, you forgot my birthday. Well, why didn't you say something? The blue will go, well, why didn't you just know? I know what's going on with you. Why don't you know what's happening with me? Because the other colors don't process that way. And a lot of the colors don't like being manipulated by guilt, which is a blues tool when they're out of power. They'll use guilt, because that's how you manipulate a blue, is make them feel guilty. And so you can manipulate a blue so that they'll turn around then and do the same thing. Oh, no, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'll just be here by myself. It's okay. So that's the downside of a blue. But remember, blues only do things for two reasons: to give love and to be loved. So that's not bad. So what blues need to do to get in power, number one is blues need to connect with source, universe, God, something spiritual. When they connect with that, whether they pray or meditate or whatever, once they connect with that spiritual sense, they can get more balanced again. If blues get really bad, because they can get very depressed. If blues don't feel like they're going to have love in their lives, they just get depressed. Now, the difference is, well, I was going to say this earlier, greens are the number one color that will take themselves out. If they are out of money, or, they don't see hope for their finances, whatever, greens will take themselves out. Blue doesn't usually do that, because even if they're that depressed, they don't want to hurt the people they'd be leaving behind. So blues tend to put everybody else first and themselves last, where greens don't do that. It's like, I'm not happy. I don't have wealth. I'm out of here. Blues are like, no, I'd be hurting my children or my parents or my loved one. Usually it would have to take a lot for a blue. Anyway, so when blues, if they get really low and meditating or connecting with God, source, universe isn't working, and what blues need to do is go out and do something nice for other people. As soon as they're giving again, as soon as they're doing something nice for someone else or counseling them or coaching them, they come back into their center again, usually. So, and a blues health weak spots usually are throat, breast, and reproductive system. So throat, because they swallow a lot of hurt and tears usually in their lives. Breast, because they're always nurturing people. So they're the number one color that gets breast cancer. I've seen it over and over again because they don't know how to cut people off. So they're not nurturing them all the time. Or they feel guilty that they were ever born, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole lot of background behind why blues do that to themselves, or they feel like they shouldn't have been a girl or whatever. So anyway, so blues, loving, nurturing, spiritual, caretakers, givers, caregivers. Got to change that word around now. Loyal, loving friend. I have friends, I'm a blue yellow. So I have friends that I've known since elementary school. We're still really close. Blues will write Christmas cards to people they haven't seen in 50 years. So very loyal friends. So those are blues. But what I'm going to tell blues is you got to trust your intuition. Blues know if they get a feeling about something and they go against it, it's like, oh, I knew not to do that. Why did I do that? Blues have to really learn how to listen to that psychic, intuitive voice inside. So you want to go to violets now, Bruce?
Here we are.
All right. Now remember, everyone, I told you Bruce is a violet-yellow combo. Violets are the visionaries on the planet. They come from the third eye chakra. If we were to use this term, violets are kind of the old souls. They just know things. They see things. They see way ahead of other people. The reason I've been talking this fast the whole time is because I'm talking to Bruce and he's got violet in his aura. So watch this. Tans do this. Stab 1, stab 2, stab 3. Greens go 1, 2. I got it. 10. Let's go. Come on. Violets go 150. I have this vision. I see this. And you violets can get frustrated with humanity when you feel like, why can't people see this? It feels like common sense to you guys. You can see that if they keep doing this, if they keep cutting down the rainforest, this is what's going to happen. You can see if they keep on this path, this is what's going to happen. But most people can't see that far. So Violet says like, violets came here to shift the consciousness or to help save the planet or to improve the quality of life for people. Violets, ever since they were little, felt like there was something bigger they were supposed to do. Violets are not typically employee material. They have visions to accomplish. They have dreams that they've got to live here, and it's usually big. And so violets can get accused of being unrealistic dreamers because the things they want to do, the things they see, seem so big and outside the box that they can even accuse themselves of like, how are you going to do that? 150, that's so big. But every violet, and violets think everybody feels this way, and they don't. Every violet, ever since they were little, felt like they were supposed to do something more unusual. A lot of violets feel like they're supposed to be famous, or they're supposed to be a leader, or they're supposed to accomplish something big on the planet. Violets are global humanitarians usually, or they're spiritual teachers, visionaries, leaders. So when I see violets in careers, it's typically either in the media or the entertainment business. So I see them being speakers and actors, musicians, performers, writers, something that can reach the masses. Because violets get bored just doing one-on-one. They need to do something big, so that they've got something important to say here. They have something important to get out. Or I see them becoming teachers or therapists or spiritual leaders, ministers, that kind of stuff. But again, reaching the masses, helping to improve the quality of life here for people. Violets want to educate, inspire, and empower. And so I've also seen violets get involved in either politics, law, or causes. And a cause can be everything from saving the environment to helping the poor people to getting people to understand a higher consciousness or whatever. So why can't you see this? So that's a violet. So when violets are in power, they're charismatic, they're amazing in front of an audience, they're great speakers, they're great musicians. I mean, they inspire people. So when violets are in power, they make a difference here. They touch lives, they open people up, they inspire people, they make them feel something, or they make them think. When violets are in power, they're natural leaders and motivational speakers, teachers, leaders, whatever. When violets are out of power, there's two different sides to a violet out of power. They can either get scattered and overwhelmed because there's like 20 different things a violet wants to do, or they don't know which way to go next. Violets like projects. They're not usually employees unless they're the manager, the boss, the visionary, the one that gets to tell people what to do, or they work with a team that's all on the same page of making a difference, doing something amazing. So violets usually like to work for themselves. They usually like being independent and doing their own projects. And a lot of violets don't know how to do that and make money. But I'm telling you, if violets are in power, money comes to them. They just manifest money. Things work out. When violets are out of power, then money can be a challenge too. So violets can either get scattered and overwhelmed with too many ideas, too many projects, or they don't know how to manifest any of them because it seems so big and so unrealistic that they're going to be able to do that. Or violets, the other downside of violets, not all violets do this, but this is the downside of a violet. They can get arrogant, impatient, bossy, judgmental, critical about people because they go, why can't people see this? I don't understand why they're not seeing it how I'm seeing it. So they can get frustrated with humanity. They can get impatient. They can get holier than thou. I've got quite a few celebrity clients. Violets can get really big egos. I had one celebrity tell me he literally thought he was God's gift to women, and his job here was to turn them into goddesses by sleeping with them. Saying, ah. So a lot of violets out of power can get very big egos and think that they're holier than thou. So when violets either get scattered or they get arrogant, if they get scattered, number one thing that a violet needs to do, violets have to have meditation time. Now, if violets can't sit still long enough to do that, or they resist that, whatever, as long as they have alone time, they have to have quality alone time, because violets come from the third eye. So they can get their vision connected with a deeper voice, a higher self, and something greater than them, and that aligns. Violets can accomplish anything. They're really inspiring to see what they can pull off. Matter of fact, it can look like magic. People can go, you got to meet who? You got invited to go where? You got to go travel what? And that's another thing about violets. They're travelers. They're usually globally conscious, or Bruce, sometimes cosmic conscious. It's bigger than just the box. Violets don't want to live in the box. They feel trapped if they're in the box. They need to be expansive thinkers. So when violets get out of power, if you guys get scattered, alone time, meditation time, quality time, so you can get connected with your vision and that inner voice again, so you're on track of doing your life purpose, what you came here to do, even if it's multiple projects, because that is one of the things about violets. They do tend to multitask. There's so many projects they want to do at the same time. And if violets aren't doing projects, they get bored. Violets don't want to get bored. So then the other thing is, when violets get out of power and they get holier than thou and judgmental and critical and impatient and frustrated with humanity, is to learn that we're all in this together, that every soul has a purpose here, and that there's value in it, and that there's a greater purpose going on, and that your violet is here to help make a difference. A lot of violets get frustrated and just give up and just disconnect from humanity and go, I don't like them anymore. I don't believe in them anymore. But that's not why you came here. You can do it in your own way. You can do it behind the scenes. You can do it quietly. You can write. You can perform music and do music. You can do things behind art. You can do things behind the scenes so you don't have to connect with humanity. But doing nothing, one of the downsides of violets is they can get massively depressed. If a violet is not living their purpose here, if they're not living their passion, because violets have passion, if they're not living that, you violets can get lost and depressed and scattered and give up hope. And that's a really sad thing to see, because we really need violets. You know what, Bruce, the violet age started in the mid 60s. Before that, it was the blue age. Mom stayed home and father knew best. Mom was cooking and taking care of the family. Then in the mid 60s, we shifted into the violet age. The Beatles, the hippies, the peace movement, that's all violet. The Beatles are all violet yellow. John Lennon had a red overlay. Anyway, so we're in a violet age. No, well, actually now we've shifted into the indigo age. So when we get to indigos, you'll see that shift. But violets are still leaders and visionaries and world changers. So violets own that. If they meditate, number one is the best way to get centered again. Number two, violets are very affected by music. So listening to either calming, centering music or empowering, dynamic music, not negative music. Violets are very affected by music. So if they're listening to blah, 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 hey, blah, 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 it's like it's going to blow them out. It's going to get them all riled up in a bad way. The other thing that's helpful for violets if they get really lost is travel. Once a violet gets outside the box and sees the world they're here to help make a difference on, to help save, to help shift the consciousness of. Once a violet's out there, they're out of the box. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I can see it now outside the box. I can see more clearly. So that's helpful for violets too. Even doing things like writing, journaling, getting in touch with that inner self, that empowered self of yours is helpful. Being around mentors that help teach you your empowerment, who you really are. Being around mentors is really good for violets until you guys usually outgrow your teachers and mentors, and then you need to you're here to become a mentor, a teacher, a way shower. Even if it's behind the scenes or through the media, it doesn't matter. You're still touching lives on some level. Violets, when it comes to their health, it can be shotgun because violets can get so scattered that it can show up in their health that way too. But two of the places I see a lot for violets is the thyroid and throat area because they're communicators. And if a violet is felt suppressed, that they can't communicate, then they end up with throat or thyroid issues. Can't sing anymore. They can't talk anymore. They can't speak. They can't communicate anymore. And then the other thing is the eyesight because violets see way ahead of other people. And so you guys are visionaries. And so if a violet feels like, well, it's not okay to see that much, or nobody's really listening to me, or I need to fit in, they start messing with their eyesight and limiting their eyesight. Those are two of the main areas. Otherwise, it's shotgun. Anything to make you either wake up and see that something's wrong or suppress you so you can't be this dynamic, powerful, visionary, compassionate, passionate person who really wants to make a difference here, who wants to reach the masses, who wants to do something bigger than the ordinary. So you violets, if you have felt that pretty much your whole life, please don't think everybody feels that way because they don't. They don't. And you are here to do something. One of the things I say to violets, Bruce, all the belief systems aside, there's two really bad things you say to a violet to get them to get in the game. Okay. I'll go back and tell you what you say to yellows real quick, but violets, the two things you say to them is if you don't do what you came here to do, what your soul has been longing for, what you're feeling called to do, if you don't do that and you get to the end of your life, you will have regrets. You'll go, I wonder what would have happened if I had done that. What was I so afraid of? Why didn't I do that? That's almost the worst thing you can say to a violet. So if you get to the end of your life, you're going to have regrets and you'll wonder what you were so afraid of. Why didn't you go for it? Just go for it. Show up and do the best you can. The worst thing you can say to a violet, and I won't get into people's belief systems or whatever, the worst thing you can say to a violet, because they don't like this, is if you get to the end of your life and you didn't do or create or accomplish or experience what you came here to do, you will make yourself come back to this planet and do it again. And violets don't want to hear that. Okay. If you're violet yellow, it's not so bad, but violets are like, oh, no, it's too hard here. It's dense, it's struggle. I don't want to be here. Most violets want this to be their last lifetime. And again, that's a whole other conversation, Bruce, about parallel universes and multi-dimensional beings, how it's all simultaneous. Anyway, and by the way, violets, when it comes to relationships, violets need either equals, somebody that'll fly with them, because like violets are like hawks and eagles. They need to fly. They need to live their dreams, their passions. And they either need someone that will do that with them or somebody that's so supportive that they will be their ground under them and allow them to fly, allow them to have their independence, allow them to live their dreams and be supportive to help support that violet to accomplish that. Otherwise, violets can't be with somebody who's going to be suppressive, controlling, tell them they can't do it. That's sort of deadly for a violet. They'll get depressed. And if violets get really depressed, they will find a way off. It's usually through health. It's usually through some dramatic incident that happens because the violet was like, if I'm not going to do what I came here to do, I'm done. I'm not going to stay here. So that's a violet, Bruce.
All right, let's move to the indigo.
Indigos. Now, again, from the mid 60s until about 2000, between 2000 and 2014 is when we started our immersion into the indigo age. And I was telling people that, remember, I've been doing this for like 40 years now. I was telling people between 2000 and 2014, the indigo age is going to start kicking in. Indigos are, oh man, the first thing I can say about indigos is they tend to be androgynous. It's not about being male, female, gay, straight, bi, whatever. Indigos are basically the male, female embodied. They're usually asexual, but all the stuff we've got going on right now with LGBTQ, all that's all indigo energy. Michael Jackson was indigo with Violet. So they're very spiritual, they're very psychic, they're very intuitive. A lot of indigo children over the past few years have been diagnosed as autistic because indigos know these principles inside. They came here to live these higher principles. Violets are here to help shift things so that we can live differently. Indigos are here to demonstrate that difference. They embody the yin yang. They embody it's again, a lot of them appear androgynous. A lot of them can be bisexual, they can be trans, they can be whatever. And not all indigos are that way, okay? It's just, they're here to show us not to judge. They're intuitive, they're psychic. They usually, often, if they're left in power, they can communicate with animals. They connect with nature. They're very psychic. It's interesting with a lot of indigos, you almost feel like sometimes like they feel like they're not from this planet, many of them. They feel like they're from someplace else. So a lot of your listeners right now are going, wait, I feel that way. I feel that way. Maybe an indigo. You might be an indigo, or you may have a lot of violets and other colors now have added indigo into their outer bands now because we're in an indigo age. So indigos in power are here to demonstrate, to live non-judgment and living the yin yang, living that spiritual balance, living in connection with nature, with animals, with all beings, with all life. They can even have a connection with cosmic things. So, and by the way, indigos will not, you cannot manipulate them through guilt, through reward, through punishment. You can't do that. They live to their in power. They live true to their ideals, what they know to be higher spiritual truths. Bruce, you have indigo in your outer bands now, by the way. I've been watching that the last few times. I go, you added some indigo there.
Interesting.
Anyway, indigos really advanced spiritual when they're in power. They sense it, they live it. They're not usually banner wavers. They're not usually out protesting. That's more of a violet thing. It's more, I'm living it, I'm demonstrating it in harmony with all life, in harmony with spiritual principles. They know right from wrong already. So that's why a lot of parents were frustrated with indigo children because they couldn't control them. And a lot of indigos didn't speak until they were ready to talk. So some of them didn't start talking until they were 5 or 7 years old. That's an indigo. And of course, then the parents thought there was something wrong with them, which is why so many of them got diagnosed as autistic. Most indigos are not usually autistic, and if they are, they're usually on the high spectrum. But it can be another form of coming here to teach people lack of, non-judgment. This is a soul having an experience here. Now, when indigos are out of power, it's really challenging, you guys. Indigos get lost. They get confused. They're frightened here. A lot of them can't even, I had an indigo client that couldn't even relate to the physical body. He was freaking out because he couldn't figure out how to make the heart move and work and how to make the stomach work and how's this all working. He felt like he was in a space suit instead of a natural body. So a lot of indigos out of power, scared, lost, confused. Some of them out of power get abused, and then some of them can get angry. They rebel, they quiet, they withdraw from life, they withdraw from society, they withdraw from everything. It's deeply, deeply troubling for an indigo because they feel like a lost soul here on the wrong planet. So for indigos to get back in power, and by the way, indigos out of power can also become incredibly self-destructive, okay? Because it doesn't feel like what they know inside. It feels like everything's wrong here, so they can become self-destructive. So for indigos to get in power, first of all, if you're around an indigo or you've got indigo children, you need to listen to their psychic information. You need to listen. A lot of indigos remember other lives. A lot of indigos will tell you about other star systems. They're very advanced. So if you listen to them, then they start feeling like, oh, good, maybe I didn't make a mistake by coming here. Maybe it's okay for me to be here. Maybe I will be seen. Maybe I will be heard. Maybe everything's going to be okay. So, but what indigos need to do if they don't feel support around them is really connect with that principle inside, that inner voice, that soul that you are. Connect with something cosmic or higher consciousness or whatever you want to call it. Indigos have to be self-reliant and self-trusting and self-aware that they do know things, even if the rest of the world is in chaos right now. Indigos need to stay centered with that knowingness. Similar to violet, similar to blues. But since most people don't understand indigos and they're very challenged now, just like in the mid-60s when the violets came out, people are killing violets. These are violets. John and Robert Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Gorbachev, Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou, Oprah Winfrey's violet yellow. But people were killing violets back then. We don't kill violets now. Okay. So Obama is violet yellow. George Clooney's violet yellow. Amal Clooney is violet yellow. So we're listening to those souls now. Not that you and I weren't listening to them all along, but now indigos, people don't understand indigos because they're like these strange, otherworldly, alien type of whatever. They can't figure them out. But if indigos can hold their own and remember who they are and remember that deeper spiritual wisdom that they have inside and know that they came here to demonstrate that to humanity, if you can do that and live that way, you will inspire people. You'll gather support. So cute. I can hear indigo start going, I don't care if they don't believe me. I'm going to live my life. I'll go live with animals. I'll go live in the forest. Okay, you can do that too. But remember, you did come here to demonstrate to people that higher level of balance, of yin yang, of non-judgment, of living in harmony with the universe, the cosmos, the earth, everything. So that's why you came here. I trust your soul knew what it was doing. And when it comes to health issues, same thing. If you don't feel at peace with your own body, then it could show up anywhere. It could show up anywhere. And indigos, I have seen indigos turn to drugs or alcohol to try and numb the fact that they feel alone here, like a stranger in a strange land. So letting that go to connect with your spiritual essence, your spiritual wisdom and knowing is the key. And relationship-wise, indigos are just, again, it doesn't matter if it's male, female, black, white, gay, straight, bi, whatever. It's indigos love soul to soul, soul to soul. So that means they could be with a woman, they could be with a man, they could be with, it's just black, white. It's just, they feel a connection soul to soul, and they could trade off. It could be different souls, but it's still a soul to soul connection. Okay, Bruce, that's indigo.
All right, here's my favorite one.
Crystals, again, another rare one. Now, I may have seen more crystals than I know because crystals are actually the auric chameleons. First of all, crystals literally have a clear aura. It's like a piece of clear crystal. And they're here to be healers. They like quiet. They like serene. It's really hard for crystals to be around a lot of people because it blows them out. So crystals can channel healing energy. I see them doing healing work a lot, energy work, massage work, or I've seen them work in libraries or doctors' offices where it's really pristine and quiet and clean and simple. They need to spend a lot of times in quiet, in meditation, because what happens to a crystal, which is so unusual, crystals, if they don't know who they are, when they're out of power, when they're in power, they're clear conduits for spiritual energy, for healing energy. They just channel energy through to heal the person, to help that person get rid of their blocks so their body can heal. When crystals are out of power, again, they don't know why they're here. They get lost. And so what they do is they act like auric chameleons. If they're around a blue, their aura starts turning blue and they start acting like a blue. If they're around a green, their aura turns green and they start acting like a green. So it can confuse the heck out of people and the crystal themselves. Now, that's not the same as a yellow trying to please people or a blue trying to please people so they get along with everyone and they mold around them. Crystals, literally, their aura color changes and they start acting like a different person. So they can get very lost, very confused, and again, not know why they're here. And unfortunately, the downside of a crystal is when they're doing that, people can feel exhausted around them. They can feel energetically drained around a crystal because a crystal is pulling on that person's energy and absorbing that person's energy. They're not doing it because they're mean people or bad people. They're just trying to figure out how they're supposed to act here. They're trying to figure out who their identity is, who they are. So they feel like if I'm like you, then I'll be accepted. I'll know who I am. I can live, as an intact being here. So they pull on it, but people go away feeling drained, usually, if the crystal's doing that. And the crystal can feel needy, lost, needing attention, needing love all the time. Now, it's not like other colors can't do that, but it's a different thing because crystals actually pull on the energy. So when crystals get like that, number one, crystals need quiet. If crystals are around too many people, it blows them out. They start taking on too many things and it can shatter them. So crystals are better one-on-one in quiet, serene gardens, quiet, serene sanctuaries. It's really great for a crystal to build or create a sanctuary inside their home, like with an altar or a meditation room, someplace where they can go where it's quiet and clean and peaceful. And then get in touch with that, who they are, similar to the indigos, but get in touch with that energy. Crystals didn't come here for the same reason that indigos did. Crystals came here I don't even know why crystals came here sometimes, to help people heal, to appreciate the beauty of nature, to appreciate life, to learn what's going on here. Crystals are actually, they can be like, what is going on this planet? What are people doing? What are they about? But you can't be around them a whole lot. It's kind of more of a learned, like I'm observing, I'm gaining wisdom by seeing what's going on here. And you did come here to heal others, but again, one-on-one, very quiet, not large groups. I've even seen crystals get into things like, what's the word I want? Research, where they can research different healing modalities or health stuff or new modes of creating, I don't want to say medications, but something that's going to heal people. So they get into research of how do we heal cancer? How do we heal ADD? How do we heal, they'll get into research in a quiet, serene, sterile environment so they can be doing healing work, but they're not around the masses in chaotic situations. So, and violets, it's great to either have crystals, real quiet or peaceful with chimes going or fountains going so that it's a peaceful, serene environment. That's what helps you guys stay centered. And then again, connecting with that spiritual wisdom, that spiritual knowingness in a clear way, not being bombarded by a lot of other people telling you what the truth is. It's like really connecting and going straight to source so you can hear it inside. It's okay if you have a teacher or a mentor, somebody that's helping you learn, as long as it's resonating with you, as long as it validates something, that ignites something that you already know. So I'm not spending a lot of time on crystals because I don't know that many of them. You probably have people thinking they're crystals, but just so you know, if you are a healer, or if you get blown out by people because you're sensitive, you may actually be one of those sensitive childlike yellows, because yellows are also healers. They're very sensitive and they want to please others. Still different than a crystal. Crystals do have a lot of intellect, even though they still process more through their intuition, their psychic, their emotional, that inner body more than the intellect. It's just they use the intellect to gain wisdom and knowledge of what's happening on this planet. Okay, so that's a crystal. And health-wise, you can see if crystals if they're around too many people or it's chaotic, whatever, they can just get sick like crazy just so that they can go retreat and be alone and try to heal themselves. Okay, lavenders. I've never seen a pure lavender. I've seen a lavender blue and a lavender violet. Those are the ones I've usually seen. Lavenders are sweet, sensitive, creative, airy-fairy, woo-woo children. They're more fantasy-oriented. They love talking about spirits or angels or fairies or the creative, but they're other realm. They're other realm people. They tend to daydream a lot. They're not about physical reality very much. So if you start talking to a lavender, after a while, you feel like nobody's home because they leave their bodies a lot. They fantasize a lot. They daydream a lot. They're here to be creative and to bring the awareness of other dimensions, other realms, fairies, angels. They're here to bring that information into this realm. And then usually they do it through creativity. They usually either write stories, especially children's stories or fantasy stories, or they do artwork, very creative, very otherworldly. They're more etheric. They're usually very sweet, especially when they're in power and very creative. The challenge for most lavenders is they don't relate to the physical reality that we have here. So they don't want to do jobs. They don't relate. Money feels dirty to them. So they don't stay in their bodies well enough to really accomplish anything when they're out of power. They're escape artists. And so the lavenders that I do know, they either struggle their whole lives for money or they've been trust fund babies. So somebody's taking care of them. Somebody's sponsoring them. Somebody's taking care of their financial needs so that the lavender can be the fantasy, the artist, the writer, the musician, but it's usually very etheric. Whatever they create is not harsh. It's usually fantasy. It's more fantasy. So you'll know if you have a lavender there, especially if they're talking about fairies a lot. And again, blues and violets and all the other colors can talk about angels. I'm not putting any of that down. It's just lavenders are more about fantasy and wispy. And I've seen health-wise, when lavenders get out of power and this world can be harsh for them too. They're so sensitive and they don't want to work. So they can get sick a lot because they're not sending physical energy to their bodies. They're more escape artists. It's like, I want to get out of this body. So they don't always know how to send healing energy or keep their physical body healthy and active and going. And then out of power again, they're not good with money. So they just I've seen some lavenders be homeless people, Bruce. It's really sad. I have seen some combos out there of lavenders that are and people think that they have mental problems when they're out there like that, they've got mental illness or something. And I go, no, they're a lavender. They're a lavender. It's just like, look, I'm sweet, I'm sensitive, I'm kind, I'm nurturing, I'm creative, but I don't know how to make money. It's just not part of my world. So when lavenders get like that, number one, it's really good for lavenders to even write something where they can write up maybe a plan of how they could do their creative work and make money off of it. Or what's usually better for a lavender is do their artistic creative and find somebody else to be the salesperson, find somebody else to be their agent. I can go out there and market it and sell it for them so that the lavender doesn't have to deal with that. Or to be around beauty and nature and whatever and have somebody supporting you. If you can find that, if you can marry somebody or have a parent that's basically your guardian and is helping you out and they're happy with doing it, then at least you can do your creative side and your peaceful side and your, connect with other realms. But your purpose was to bring that awareness down to this so that we can know about those other realms. Other people, surprisingly enough, that had lavender in their auras, Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland, and C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. They weren't straight lavenders. They had other colors in there, obviously, to ground them and help them write those things and get them done. But they did have that fantasy, creative, imaginative, otherworldly fantasy consciousness in there. So lavenders need to bring it home and not be afraid of that. They can still do it quietly, but to find a way to have their creative soul, or they can be nursery school teachers or, something where they can work with children and be able to help that way, or with animals. So they can talk to the animals and be kind to animals. There's things that lavenders can do to make a living if they're not going to have someone else pay for them. So those are the colors, Bruce.
Wow. Pam, I'm surprised you can still find your voice That was quite a long,
Yeah, I hope that people.
absolutely fantastic.
And there's one other thing to cover real quick before we stop is a red overlay. If you don't mind, can we cover that real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because there are people that either have red overlays that are watching this right now, or they know someone who has a red overlay. People are not born with red overlays, usually. Usually it's put around them in childhood. Occasionally I see it coming on in the womb, but usually in childhood, usually it can come on later in life too for certain reasons. If that person has felt physically, mentally, or emotionally abandoned, rejected, or abused, or they had a life-threatening situation where they almost like died in the womb, or they were in a car accident. Red is a much denser vibration, so people put it around them for protection, which is wise to do if you're a child and you've been abused. Is put that red around for protection because it's denser. It's a survival thing. It'll keep you in your body. It'll keep you anchored to the earth a bit more. But what happens is over time, you want to let go of that red overlay because it can turn into either anger or self-sabotage. And then people always feel like bad things are happening to them all the time. It's not that they can't function. Like John Lennon had a red overlay and he functioned, but you see how much he was getting into fights, and then you see what happened to him. Steve Jobs had a red overlay. He was a violet yellow with a red overlay. He manifested all those amazing violet things ahead of their time, visionary things, and the creative part of the yellow too. But the red overlay, you see what happened to him. So red overlay is not a healthy thing to keep on over your lifetime. Smart to put on when you feel like you're in danger, but eventually it needs to go off. And what I know, Bruce, is people will not let go of red overlays unless they feel safe here. So there's ways I know to get rid of a red overlay. One is to, and this usually only works for violets, but one is to visualize it melting off, disintegrating, going away. Maybe replace it with white light or something that feels healthier to, have a protection around you. But so visualizing it melting off. But again, if you don't feel safe here, you won't let it stay off. You'll pull it right back on. Number two is therapy, is getting therapy, having someone help you go through the trauma so that you can release it, whatever. And number three is rewriting your past in your imagination, which can also happen in therapy. But you can do a visualization or a feeling of you as an adult going back and protecting you as a child. So you're rewriting that situation, or rewriting so the car accident didn't happen, or rewriting so that somebody comes in and rescues that poor child from the abusive adult, whatever. So rewriting it can actually help the person. Believe it or not, it works in rewiring you so that the red overlay doesn't need to be there anymore. You've rewritten that situation so you feel stronger, more empowered, and safer. Then the red can come off, because otherwise it can create drama in your life. It can create a lot of anger or self-abuse. It can create a lot of negative things coming at you, not to punish you, but to help you remember that you've got a red overlay so you can get rid of it. So if you've constantly got people betraying you or angry at you, or, you get into fights or whatever, anything that comes at you like that, it's not to punish you. It's to help you go, oh, I've got a red overlay from my, that trauma. I need to let go of that so that stops happening. And it'll stop happening. Then you can let go of the red overlay.
Would it be helpful to remind people of that red quality? You did express it very well, but maybe just so that people understand what it is, like you said, for example, how strong a red is.
Yeah.
So to have that, to not have that be part of you, you become that to strengthen yourself against, for example, use the word abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps you could.
Okay, good. That's a great point, Bruce. So a red life color, that personality type, is different than a red overlay, but they have similar qualities in that there's power there. So a lot of people, when they add red overlays, some of them do use it as power. They use it as a strength, combative. So that's okay, except for ultimately adding a red overlay. It's different than a red personality now, okay? Red life color. The red overlay is outside of your life colors. It's put on for protection. So if people use it for strength and power, that's one way to do it, and they can function that way. However, my concern is keeping a red overlay on, then you always have to be strong and powerful. It can turn against you. It can cause health problems. It can cause attracting things that want to come at that red. So
yeah, what I was thinking of was an example of either a man or a woman in a relationship where they are constantly being abused. That becomes a reason to put on this overlay.
Yes.
It's like when it's cold outside, you put on a coat.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's a good point, Bruce. That's a great point. We just don't want people to think they have to have it on for their whole life, because then it acts like
it's like a coat. You don't want to put that. They want to keep that coat on when you come inside and it's nice and warm. You want to take it off.
That's a great analogy, Bruce, a great analogy. So yes, if you can use it for strength to get out of the situation, get beyond it, and then get into a place where you don't need that anymore, then you can take the coat off. That's a really good analogy.
All right. Thank you. Listen, this is, I think, a great interview. I appreciate all of the work that you've put into this over the years, because a lot of people, even if they were preparing this, let's say, for the first time, they would have had notes. They would have had to, you were so free and so knowledgeable. That's the most important aspect of this. And I hope that the slides that I made helped out. So.
Yeah, and I want your viewers to also know they can go to my website, auracolors.com, AURA colors.com, and there's a free quiz there, the free Aura Color quiz. I just want people to answer honestly, not who they've been trained to be, who their job is now, who they think they're supposed to be, at the core of who they believe they are, so they can find out their life colors. And then I've got videos on there and written stuff and books and all kinds of stuff to help people understand. Because again, I've only given you a small portion of what I know about all those Aura colors. So thank you, Bruce.
Well, thank you, Pam. Thank you for watching and listening to the Timeless Voyager series podcast. We're on video players like YouTube, Rumble, audio players like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Chrome browser, and many, many more. One thing that you can do to support the growth of the Timeless Voyager series is to hit that like button, share, comment, and please subscribe. My next milestone is 1,000 subscribers. That's not a lot, but it's the beginning. You can help by just hitting that subscribe button. It's actually, let me see if I can point to it. Subscribing is free, and it helps us to grow the Timeless Voyager channel. My name is Bruce Stephen Holms. I hope that your own personal voyage through life towards the development of your highest potential is a joyous and successful one.